My name's Yolanda Wiersma. I am a professor in the Department of Biology here on the St. John's campus. I would say open access refers to academic output that is accessible to everyone, where you don't have to be affiliated with a university or a research institution to be able to read about the work that researchers at such an institution are doing. In respect to publication, I've published quite a few of my research papers as open access. I try to publish open access whenever I can. I also am an associate editor at a journal that recently moved to being a fully open access journal. A lot of my research is directly related to applied problems, particularly related to conservation, ecological issues, and the environment. And so a lot of my work has a very applied focus to folks who might not otherwise have access to university materials. So folks like Indigenous groups, sometimes even government agencies, small not-for-profits, that sort of thing. They might want to use the results of this research, but not have immediate access to it. So it's really important for me to publish that work to make it as fully accessible to as many people as possible so that they can use the results in their own work. Definitely, it helps my collaborations, and I have collaborated directly with some of the people I have published with in open access. It also has helped to get my work out to a broader audience. Sometimes you publish work as a scientist and people want to read it or they read about it, but they don't necessarily have access to the peer-reviewed paper because they don't work for an institution that has the subscription. And people don't always realize that it's perfectly okay to email the scientist and ask for a copy of the paper. If they don't know you, they might not feel that it's acceptable to do that. And so I definitely have seen instances where my work's been read and used by some of these types of, not-for-profits or smaller agencies all around, all across North America that are not necessarily direct collaborators, but the work has relevance for those folks. I think the most recent example is a paper I published last year with some collaborators, both within and outside of academia, around some preliminary exploratory work we did in central Newfoundland on lichen biodiversity. And we published it as an open access paper, and it has very quickly become the most read, or in the top 5 of the most read of that journal. And it's a very small little corner of central Newfoundland where the local Indigenous folks are trying to set it aside as protected. And so having that paper be open access, having my Indigenous colleagues as co-authors being able to freely access that paper and share it with, their neighbors, their fellow band members, their band council, and not having to have it the link be behind a paywall has been immensely powerful for them to promote the ecological value of this area. The thing that's the most difficult for some people to wrap their heads around is the perception of big cost barriers. So a lot of the journals do publish open access for a fee, and sometimes those fees are quite high. It is often quite easy to negotiate a reduction in that fee or even get a waiver. And I think that's something that's not always widely known, and that would be a key thing to communicate. This one's kind of a technical one, but I see that a lot of people confuse issues around open access and copyright. So there's confusion about whether something is open access versus whether something's, licensed under the Creative Commons. And I explain a lot to students those differences, that even though it's out there open to read or look at or use, the copyright might still rest with the author, and you may not get to use it in any way that you want.